死なないために死ぬほど準備することなんて絵にひねやらたことでしょう。光栄だけど買いかぶりっすよ。
Hello guys, it's me Sion Orohara, and in this video we will talk about the founder of the GOTEI 13, the former so-taicho Yamamoto, so that I find this is a good opportunity to discuss with you the idea of some fans who bring up this topic of comparisons between Yamamoto and Kyoraku in terms of leadership. In fact, I find this comparison is not correct and not based on objective points. I see that KUBO is not the only one who wronged Yamamoto by not giving him fair fights. All Yamamoto's fights were against an opponent who used some tricks to defeat him, or when KUBO gave Yamamoto that humiliating death. But even some fans, just because Yamamoto made some decisions weren't good, they say he's not a good so-taicho and Kyoraku is the best. Why? Because he made bold decisions like making Zaraki train with Onohana or took Aizen Sasuke out of the Moken in order to fight against Yamamoto. And honestly, this doesn't make any sense. How can you summarize the path of a character who is the one who created the concept of the GOTEI 13 and the possession of so-taicho for more than 1,000 years? All this path summed up in a few mistakes among the dozens of good things that Yamamoto did. And personally, I see that Yamamoto as a character who took this position cannot be compared to any character who will come after him. The comparison should be with those who will come after him among themselves, unless one of them come up with a revolutionary system in how the GOTEI 13 works, because in the past we used to think that there were other so-taicho before Yamamoto, but what came in chapter 504 and chapter 511 changed our overall understanding of Yamamoto, so that this old man who seems to have radical ideas that cannot be changed, he himself changed much of the history of the Soul Society, and when he was a young man he came up with the revolutionary ideas that changed the way of thinking and work of the Shinigami. And this point is a strong proof that Yamamoto, besides his strength, he had personality that aimed to change for the better. For example, in chapter 504, we saw that Yamamoto 1,000 years ago was the founder of the Academy of the Shinigami, which later became in its current form. In that school where did Kyoraku and Okitake graduated and became captains. Thus, it can be said that before Yamamoto's idea of establishing the GOTEI 13, he had already prepared the ground for the existence of this organization by establishing the Shinigami Academy, so that in that academy the souls are taught everything related to Shinigami. Even more than that, KUBO frankly surprised me when he recently answered one of the important questions. One of the fans told him is the mission of the Shinigami to clean the hollows and send them to the Soul Society was before the presence of Nimaya. KUBO said that the role of the Shinigami and how they work was determined after the creation of the GOTEI 13. Because personally, I thought that the concept of the Shinigami work was defined millions of years ago, especially since Shiba's ancestor was the first person to talk about the hollows and that they also had hearts. But as KUBO said, everything related to the mechanism of Shinigami work was determined after the creation of the GOTEI, and the GOTEI was created by Yamamoto. So it appears to you that Yamamoto is the person who charted the path of the Shinigami, from how to deal with hollows and to carry out missions and all the things that pertain to this aspect. Because I do think that things were run randomly before the presence of the GOTEI in the Soul Society. But Yamamoto, besides the power, had a different view of the situation in which the Soul Society was living, because the imposition of any new system requires several things, like power, and this quality was available in Yamamoto. In addition, he had to have a strong people next to him to help him in this task, and these things was also present in the presence of Onohana Yachiro, the first Kinpachi, as well as the rest of the squad members who gained respect of Yuaba himself. Moreover, and this is also a point that we shouldn't lose sight of, that Yamamoto either had a strong position within the noble society, like he was from a noble family, or he had friends from noble families who supported him in this new path he took with the establishment of the GOTEI 13. For example, it may be that the friendship that he had with Genri, the leader of the Kuchiki family, had a role in persuading the nobles who control Rome 46 to establish an organization within the society whose mission mission is to protect the soul society as well as facilitate the process of transferring souls between the worlds. Therefore, if we want to judge Yamamoto, we must judge his overall path, which was full of changes that contributed to the creation of many things that didn't exist before in the soul society. It is true that Yamamoto's age may have made his ideas harden somewhat, but we notice that after Ichigo's appearance in the life of the GOTEI 13, Yamamoto changed some of his conventions. In the past, giving the Shinigami his power to someone else was considered a major crime punishable by death penalty. But after Ichigo's contributed to the defeat of Aizen Sasuke in the loss of his power, Yamamoto ordered everyone to give part of their power so that Ichigo could regain his power again. Which means providing assistance to others and changing the necessary things are the characteristics of Yamamoto. But Yamamoto, that warrior who spent centuries fighting, couldn't give up on one thing: his pride. Yamamoto's pride was his strength in the past, his pride in killing enemies and driving them away. This pride helped him to fight with all his might. But with his age, this point began to become a weakness. In the Arankara arc, he didn't accept Ichigo's help and wanted to sacrifice himself and all the captains in order for himself to eliminate Aizen Sasuke. And after the end of the great battle between Aizen and Ichigo, he didn't want to ask for help from Inoue or Hime, who was going to give him back his arm. Therefore, he would have fought with all his might. But unfortunately, Yamamoto's pride was the reason for his death in the end. Other than this, I say that Kyoraku is not at the level of strength that entitles him to lead the GOTEI 13, as was the case with Yamamoto, but he has the experience and the intelligence that would make him take decisions that might benefit the GOTEI 13. I also see that the right person to succeed Kyoraku is Kitsuki Byakuya. I find Byakuya a suitable person to lead. It is true that he too has that pride related to being a noble, but what happened, whether in his first battle against Ichigo Kurosaki or the wars that took place between him and Kyoraku, when Kyoraku explained to him why did he took that step of getting Aizen Sasuke out of the Moken. These are all things that showed Byakuya that leadership sometimes requires taking all possible means in order to win and ensure the stability of the Soul Society. Finally, I say that Yamamoto's version cannot be repeated until many centuries later, but there is one person who can be the next Yamamoto or the next so-taicho, and he is Toshiro Hitsugaya. I have said many times that I see Toshiro the opposite version of Yamamoto in terms of power. Yamamoto has the strongest fiery Zanpakuto, and Toshiro has the strongest icy Zanpakuto. Toshiro is considered the youngest captain in the entire history of the Soul Society, and he has a Bankai before he entered the GOTEI 13. And Kyoraku has spoken about this possibility of Toshiro being a so-taicho in the future, when he said that Toshiro in the upcoming centuries will surpass him. And I agree with this talk. Toshiro can be powerful and a good so-taicho in the distant future. So guys, tell me what you think about Yamamoto as a so-taicho and who you think will be a good so-taicho after Kyoraku. And see you guys in my next video.